The State Capture Commission has welcomed the Constitutional Court judgment that found former President Jacob Zuma guilty of contempt of court and sentenced him to 15 months in jail, saying the decision is of great importance to the rule of law. Zuma has to hand himself over within 5 days of the judgment. The country's apex court found that Zuma had defied the order of the Constitutional Court that he appear before the State Capture Commission.
The Constitutional Court holds that it is disturbing that he, who twice swore allegiance to the Republic, its laws and the Constitution, has sought to ignore, undermine, and in many ways destroy the rule of law altogether.
The Constitutional Court says the former president has an obligation to protect the Constitution, but has failed to do so. Justice Kambimbi further says the majority judgment viewed the former president as someone who portrays himself as a victim.
No person is above the law, and every person, whatever be her or his rank or condition, is subject to the ordinary realm of the law and amenable to the jurisdiction of its tribunals. An act of defiance in respect of a direct judicial order has the potential to precipitate a constitutional crisis. If with impunity, litigants are allowed to decide which orders they wish to obey and which they wish to ignore, then our Constitution is not worth the paper upon which it is written.
The majority judgment says the court was left with no alternative but to incarcerate the former president.
I am left with no option but to commit Mr. Zuma to imprisonment with the hope that doing so sends an unequivocal message. In this, our constitutional dispensation, the rule of law and the administration of justice prevails.
Zuma has to hand himself over to a police station within 5 days, failing which the Minister of Police must make an arrest.
Mr. Jacob Zuma is sentenced to undergo 15 months imprisonment.
Samkele Masego, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, related to this, we're asking our questions today to take part in our conversation, and that question we're asking is how will this, or what does the Constitutional Court's ruling against former President Jacob Zuma mean for South Africa's political discourse? A lot of comments have come through already. Let's take a look at some of those. Lehasa Batlamolo says, Salochano Badubagwetu, obviously we aren't treated equally. Mr. Zuma was supposed to be arrested yesterday and be given 25 years imprisonment, not 15 months. Zakele Pangisa says the president of the country must give the former president a presidential parole. This thing will cause the political and social instability in the country. We can't afford that. Tori says we must praise our leaders when they do good, and we must also criticize them when they don't act in a responsible manner. Jacob Zuma did not set a good example of a responsible leader. If you break the law, you must pay the price regardless of your status. Nokala Sinyamba says straightforward, no one in the Republic is above the law. Donald King Dingobeni says, I believe it sends a strong message to politicians that no one is above the law. Mr. Zuma must serve his sentence. Ria says no one is above the law. And Miki Maraba says 3 points for me. 1, adhere, respect and take the subpoena seriously. 2, no individual is above the law. 3, with fairness, legally so. Does sentencing for contempt of court crime not allow the offender either to serve jail term or pay fine or both? Just curious, Desiree, all these questions that are coming out of this, but many more comments that have come through, and thank you so much for engaging in our question of the day. We will continue to read your comments throughout the show. Now, our news team in KwaZulu-Natal has been deployed to Nkandla to monitor developments outside the home of former President Jacob Zuma following the Court ruling finding him guilty of contempt of court, sentencing him to 15 months imprisonment. For more on this, we're joined live by our colleague Ayanda Mhlongo, who's been on the story. Ayanda, the MKMVA has been there since February, and I stand to be corrected here. Are they still there in their numbers?
Very good morning, Desiree, and good morning to our viewers. Certainly, as you're saying, since February, in fact, I think it was February the 14th that members of Umkhonto based here in KwaZulu-Natal moved to the outside the president's home, and they have been camped outside his home since February. Of course, what they've been doing over the past couple of months, Desiree, since they've been here, is that they have been taking turns. But what we understand, there's not been a single day where there has not been a presence of the members of Umkhonto. In fact, I'm just going to move out of shot a little bit for my colleague Nkandla just to show you that is across the road from where we are, and this is now the base for the Umkhonto members, that a Navy marquee there, that is where they are staying. This is the fence, of course, into the former president's home. And I'm just going to move this side again just to show you the main entrance into the former president's home. And every single day they stand guard outside the home, monitoring who is going in. In fact, as the vehicles go through, they stop each vehicle to check who is going through into the president's home. And again, since we've been here, Desiree, from yesterday, they've continuously doing that. And of course, outside as well, they are setting up, and there's certain points where they have them sitting, observing what is taking place outside the home and the surroundings. I must tell you, aside from members of the Umkhonto who are here, it has been very quiet. Of course, we were expecting from this morning that the supporters of the former president are going to start to gather. This is what we've heard. In fact, it was also confirmed in our discussion with Edward Zuma, former President Jacob Zuma's son, who we spoke to yesterday, saying that indeed they were expecting large crowds to start gathering from today. The group of MVA members that we see there was a handful that we saw yesterday, so it seems that last night more did arrive. Still not the same numbers that were here when we were last here in February, but certainly we are told that there are other members of Umkhonto that are going to be making their way here to Nkandla. We were told that others would be coming from Johannesburg and provinces like the Free State, of course, as well with the level 4 regulations and the restriction of movement in the provinces like Gauteng. We'll have to wait and see whether or not, Desiree, indeed, as they're telling us, those members will be able to come out here to KwaZulu-Natal. But of course, in areas such as Durban and around Nkandla, we are told that members of the public and the supporters, members of the ANC, members of the public, the supporters of the former president are going to be making their way here today to show their support. Still no clarity, Desiree, in terms of where the former president is. Yesterday, when we spoke to Edward, he told us that his father is a South African and his father is somewhere in South Africa. So we're still not yet certain as to his whereabouts, whether he's in Durban, whether he's outside of the province. We hopefully throughout the day we will be able to possibly speak to the family to see where the former president is, and of course what the next move for them is going to be. Yesterday, when we spoke to Edward, he told us that the family was still studying the judgment and then was going to decide on the way forward. His sister, Tutuzile Zuma, in a social media post had said that her father was in high spirits and that, of course, they had been given the choice of whether or not he was going to serve his time in Johannesburg or here in Nkandla. And in that tweet, she said, of course, they would choose a prison closer to home. There are several prisons around the area which I suppose the Department of Corrections Correctional Services will then have to decide where the former president will be serving his 15-month prison term, whether or not it could be three possibilities. It could either be there's a facility, a correctional facility in Nkandla, there is a correctional facility in Eshowe, and there's a correctional facility in Mpangeni, which is the Ekalagabusha Correctional Facility. So three that are closest to the former president's home, and so one would then have to presume it could be either of those three. Closer to where we are as well, there's about 5 minutes from the home. There is a small satellite station, very, very small satellite station. In fact, we just went by there this morning to see whether or not it was open. And indeed, we did see 2 police officers, and that small satellite station is open. But of course, about 45 minutes or to an hour away from where we are in the town of Nkandla is the Nkandla police station, which understanding will possibly be that is where the former president may go to hand himself over to the authorities before then being sent to either of the prisons. Of course, at this point, we're uncertain which police station he will go to, or which prison correctional service officials will then decide that he will send his prison term. So there's very, very quiet at the moment, as I was saying, aside from the members of the media that are here, the members of MKMVA. I see just in the distance there's a vehicle with a few gentlemen wearing ANC T-shirts. At this point, we can't tell who they are. Yesterday, we know that the ward councillor in this area did also come through. There was about 5 members of the ANC that were here as well. Yesterday, we just see those small group of gentlemen that are standing there. I can't tell who they are from this point, but they've also just been moving around, looking at the area. So whether or not they're here to plan for the crowds that are possibly expected to come through here from this morning, we're uncertain, but we will be trying to speak to them. Edward Zuma is also speaking to those gentlemen there, so we're also going to try to chat to him a little bit later just to find out, has there been any latest developments overnight? Has his father met with his attorneys? Have they studied the judgment, and what is going to be the way forward with regards to what is going to happen with the former president? Desiree?
And I just want to take you back to the position of the family. You're mentioning what Edward Zuma said yesterday about an imminent meeting, and what Duduzile Zuma said. Is there a contradiction there? Because one says we will be going to the police station, another one says a family still to meet to study this. And do we know are we any the wiser in terms of this family meeting, if it indeed has taken place?
At this point, Desiree, we're uncertain whether or not this family meeting has taken place. We were told that the former president was going to be meeting with his attorneys to study the judgment. In fact, before speaking to Edward Zuma yesterday, he had said to us that he's only going to tell us that the family needs time to study the judgment before they can decide, and there's not more that he's going to be able to share with us. But as the interview went along, he opened up. But personally, he said that he was speaking about himself and his feelings towards the situation involving his father, where he said to us, Desiree, that he will not allow anyone to come and arrest his father. In fact, saying that he will die before he sees his father going to prison. We then asked him whether or not he shared the same views as his sister, which his sister was speaking about the fact that they will be escorting their father to whatever facility that he chooses to go to. Edward Zuma said he can't speak for his sister. His sister has the right to her opinion, but of course he was just speaking as a former President Jacob Zuma's son, to say that he is not going to allow his father to go to prison, and whoever comes to the home to arrest his father will have to go through him. So At this point, Desiree, unclear. We'll have to just wait and see throughout the course of the day. As I said, we will be trying to get Edward Zuma to see whether or not the family has been able to meet, what was the discussions possibly overnight, and what is going to be the way forward for the family. But of course, we are here at Desiree, and we will be keeping our viewers up to date over the next coming days, and we'll be bringing you all the latest news and the developments with regards to this story. Desiree?
Ayanda, I know you said there isn't much activity